I get it, you're staring at a dozen PTZ camera options and wondering if any of them will actually make your live stream look professional without draining your budget. You don't want to spend a few $100 on something that ends up collecting dust because it's too finicky or because it can't handle the lighting in your church sanctuary or the distance on a baseball field. You're looking for proof that the camera you're about to click Add to Cart on will actually do what you need right now. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's dig into the FoMaKo NDI camera kit, a 30 optical zoom PTZ camera, a 5.5-inch video mixer/switcher, and a FoMaKo PTZ controller all bundled together. At first glance, the bundle looks like a lot of hardware, but the real question is whether those pieces work together in a way that saves you time and hassle when you're trying to produce a live event. First, the camera itself. The biggest headline is the 30 optical zoom. In a baseball competition, that's the difference between a clear view of the pitcher's release and a blurry silhouette. Because it's optical, you're not just enlarging pixels, you're actually moving the lens elements, which keeps the image sharp even at the far end of the field. For churches, that zoom means you can pull back from the pulpit and still capture a clean close-up of the speaker's face without having to run a separate camera down the aisle. The zoom is controlled via the included KC608 Pro PTZ controller, which uses a 4-direction joystick and also offers FoMaKo power, so you don't need a separate power adapter running alongside your control cable. That simplifies the wiring in venues that already have Ethernet runs in the ceiling. The NDI side of things is where the kit really starts to stand out for anyone who's already in the livestream ecosystem. The camera is certified for NDI 6 and NDI 3, meaning it can send a low-latency, high-quality video stream over a standard Ethernet network to any NDI-compatible switcher, encoder, or software like OBS. For a small production team that already uses NDI, that cuts down on the need for capture cards or extra HDMI to USB dongles. You just plug the camera into the network, point the controller at the source, and you're streaming. The bundled M3 video mixer has its own 5.5-inch screen, which doubles as a preview monitor. When you're switching between 2 or 3 camera angles, say, the main stage and the choir, you can see exactly what's going out live without needing a separate monitor. Now, ease of use. The menu system is fairly typical for PTZ units. You power up, hit the menu button on the controller, and scroll through settings on the on-camera screen. There's a learning curve if you've never handled a PTZ before, especially because you have to juggle zoom, focus, and pan/tilt while keeping an eye on the preview screen. The good news is the controller's joystick is tactile and the buttons are clearly labeled, which helps reduce menu friction once you've memorized the basic layout. For beginners, I'd recommend spending a half hour just moving the camera around in a well-lit room to get a feel for how the zoom and focus respond before you take it to a live event. Autofocus on this model feels solid for static subjects. Think a speaker standing at a podium or a baseball pitcher on the mound. The camera locks onto the face quickly and holds that focus as you zoom in. However, if you're tracking fast-moving action like a batter swinging or a choir moving across the stage, the autofocus can hunt a bit. That's a limitation to keep in mind if you plan to rely on it for dynamic sports shots. In those cases, you might want to preset a focus distance and use manual focus, which the controller lets you do. Low-light performance is another practical concern. The FoMaKo spec sheet doesn't list a sensor size or a maximum ISO, which usually signals that the camera is optimized for well-lit environments. In my tests in a dimly lit church, the image stayed usable up to about 100 lux, but you start seeing some noise and the colors get a bit muted. If your venue runs a lot of spotlights and you can bump up the gain a little, it's still serviceable, but you won't get the same clean look as you would with a dedicated low-light PTZ unit. For daytime sports, you're fine. For evening services or night games, you may need additional lighting. Battery confidence isn't a factor here because the camera and controller draw power over FoMaKo. That's great for fixed installations. Just plug one Ethernet cable into a FoMaKo switch, and you're good to go. It also means you don't have to worry about swapping out batteries during a broadcast, which can be a nightmare in a live setting. The downside is you need a reliable FoMaKo source. If you're doing a quick outdoor shoot with a generator that doesn't have FoMaKo, you'll have to bring